There's a feeling you know well. That anxiety of waking up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, and feeling like nothing makes sense. You work, you study, you have relationships. But deep down, there's a question that won't let you go. What for? Why? And the more you search for a definitive answer, the emptier everything seems. It's like the universe is staring back at you with total indifference. And it's exactly at this point that most people spend their entire lives trying to escape from. But what if I told you that stopping this search for meaning is the best thing you can do for yourself? That accepting this strangeness can give you more freedom and happiness than any ready-made answer ever would? Albert Camus realized this decades ago. Born in Algeria in 1913, he grew up in absolute poverty, lost his father as a baby during the 1914 world conflict, and lived his youth under the scorching Mediterranean sun while working to survive. He was a journalist, playwright, novelist, political activist, and gradually became one of the most important philosophical voices of the 20th century. In 1957, at 44 years old, he won the Nobel Prize in Literature. 3 years later, he died in an absurd and ironic car accident, considering everything he wrote about the absurdity of existence. But what made Camus special wasn't the awards or academic recognition. It was his brutal courage to look at reality without filters, without the comfortable crutches that most thinkers offer to ease existential anxiety. He wasn't a conventional philosopher trying to sell you comfort or cheap certainties. He was someone willing to tell hard truths that most people prefer to avoid. That the world has no inherent meaning. That no God is going to show up to explain why you suffer. That your life doesn't have a pre-written purpose in the stars waiting to be discovered. And yet, paradoxically, he wasn't a bitter pessimist drowning in despair. Quite the opposite. Camus deeply believed in life, in human passion, in the beauty of the present moment, in conscious revolt against meaninglessness. He lived intensely, loved intensely, wrote intensely, fought for causes he believed in. And what he saw, what he discovered through his philosophy, was revolutionary. The problem isn't that the world has no meaning. The problem is you killing yourself looking for a meaning that will never appear, wasting your entire life on this impossible search. And when you finally stop searching, when you accept this raw truth, something incredible and liberating happens. You start to truly live for the first time. First, you need to understand what Camus calls the absurd. It's not something mystical or complicated, it's simply the clash between two forces that will never meet. On one side, you have the human being with their desperate thirst for meaning, for clarity, for eternal answers. We want to know why we're here, what our role is, what happens after we're gone. We want everything to have an explanation, a beautiful narrative that makes sense from beginning to end, a happy ending that justifies all the suffering along the way. We want to believe that our pain has purpose, that our achievements mean something beyond the moment, that there's a greater reason behind every event in our lives. It's an almost visceral need of the human mind. We look at the stars and want to find a plan. We face tragedies and want to believe there's a hidden lesson there. We work hard and want to feel that we're building something that transcends existence itself. And on the other side, you have the universe, cold, indifferent, silent as an infinite desert. A universe that doesn't answer when you scream your questions into the void. A universe that doesn't give you clues, that doesn't leave messages, that simply exists without caring the slightest bit about your anxieties or your hopes. The stars will shine the same way whether you exist or not. The laws of physics will continue operating indifferent to your dreams. Time will pass without caring if you found your purpose or left without knowing why you were here. And this indifference isn't cruel. It would almost be easier if it were. The universe simply has no opinion about you. You're as relevant as a grain of sand on an infinite beach, as significant as a rock floating in outer space. This confrontation between what you desperately want and what the world gives you back, which is exactly nothing, that's the absurd. It's the eternal tension between your human need for clarity and the total opacity of the cosmos. And here's what most people don't want to accept. This isn't a temporary phase of your life that will pass when you grow up, when you mature, when you find your calling, when you get married, when you have kids, when you succeed. It's not something you overcome with therapy or meditation. It's the fundamental condition of existing as a conscious human being. It's the price of consciousness. Animals don't suffer from the absurd because they don't ask these questions. They simply live. But you, with your mind capable of reflecting, of questioning, of seeking patterns and meanings, you're condemned to feel this confrontation every day until your last day. You'll carry this until your last breath. And even in the final moment, the universe isn't going to show up and say, "Surprise, here's the answer you've been looking for your whole life." The question was never if you're going to face the absurd. It's inevitable. The real question is how you're going to react to it. And this is where your entire life can change direction. And the most common reaction is precisely the one that causes the most suffering, continuing to search desperately. We spend our entire lives looking for that greater meaning that will finally complete us. Maybe it's in religion, where we believe that a God or a divine plan will explain everything that seems meaningless now. That there's a paradise waiting at the end. That our suffering is a test. That everything is part of a bigger plan that our limited mind can't comprehend. Maybe it's in career, where we think that if we get enough success, enough recognition, enough money, enough status, we'll finally feel that it was worth being alive. That we'll look back and say, this was it, all the effort was for this. Or maybe it's in relationships, where we place on another person the impossible responsibility of giving meaning to our existence. As if the right person would transform emptiness into fullness. As if true love would answer all the questions that torment us alone. But what happens when you invest everything in these searches? The universe doesn't respond. God remains in as deep a silence as always. You pray, you look for signs, you try to interpret coincidences as messages, but deep down, you know you're talking to yourself. Career brings achievements that reveal themselves empty as soon as you reach them. You get where you wanted to get, and realize the emptiness remained intact inside you. The feeling of fulfillment lasts a few days, maybe weeks, and then the question comes back, now what? Was that it? The relationship eventually shows that the other person is just as lost as you. Also looking for answers they don't have. Also hoped you would complete them. And there you both are. Two voids trying to fill each other. And it doesn't work because void plus void doesn't create fullness. And what's left after all these attempts? Deep frustration, anxiety that seems endless, the persistent feeling that you're failing at something fundamental, but you don't even really know what. It's like there's a test that everyone's taking and you didn't understand the questions. It's like there's a secret that everyone discovered and you were left out. You look at people on the street and wonder, did they find it? Am I the only one who doesn't know what I'm doing here? And this feeling eats away at you from the inside, makes you question every choice, every decision, every path you took. I completely understand when you feel like you're chasing after something invisible that always escapes at the last second. When you reach out to grab meaning, and it disappears like smoke between your fingers. It's completely valid to feel this. Practically everyone feels it. But the problem isn't you. The problem is the search itself. You work hard, kill it every day, sacrifice constantly, postpone your present desires in the name of a better future that you guarantee yourself will come. You say, when I get this promotion, then I can relax. When I save up this money, then I'll live. When I solve all these problems, then I'll be happy. But that future never really arrives, does it? There's always another goal waiting on the other side of the goal you just reached. There's always another achievement necessary for you to finally feel complete. There's always another rung to climb on the infinite ladder. And meanwhile, the present slips through your fingers like water. The years pass. The experiences you could be having now get postponed eternally. Moments of simple joy are sacrificed on the altar of a promised future that always remains on the horizon, always a few steps away, but never actually reachable. This constant search traps you in a vicious cycle that seems to have no way out. You create unrealistic expectations about how life should be, about what should complete you, about when you'll finally feel like you've arrived where you needed to be. And where do these expectations come from? From movies, from books, from stories they told you, from religious promises, from cultural narratives that say there's an arrival point, a moment of redemption, a final answer. But these narratives are illusions. They're beautiful stories that don't correspond to the reality of existence. And when these expectations aren't fulfilled, when life doesn't deliver what the stories promised, you suffer. You look at your life and feel like something essential is missing. That you haven't found your true mission yet. That you haven't discovered the great secret that will make everything make sense. That maybe you chose the wrong path way back, and now you're paying the price. So you keep searching, more and more desperate, more and more frustrated, more and more convinced that the answer is right there. Just a little more effort, and you'll find it. It's an enormous weight you carry on your back every day. The weight of constant disappointment. The weight of looking in the mirror and feeling you fall short of what you should be. The weight of feeling that your life will only be worthwhile, will only truly make sense, when you finally find the right answer, the right path, the right purpose. But what if I told you that the right answer is to stop searching? What if true freedom, real peace, genuine happiness are precisely in abandoning this impossible search? What if you could simply let go of this weight and start living without needing transcendental justifications? Camus realized that faced with the absurd, most people flee. They can't handle facing this raw truth head-on, so they seek what he calls false exits. And the most common of these is what Camus calls the leap of faith. It's when you, faced with the silence of the universe, decide to believe in something transcendent anyway. You invent or accept a ready-made answer, usually religious, that tells you that yes, there's a bigger plan, there's a hidden meaning, there's something beyond that will compensate for everything. Seems comforting, doesn't it? Seems like it solves the problem. But Camus is direct. This is evasion. It's you abdicating lucidity in exchange for comfort. It's you preferring a beautiful illusion to the hard truth. And the problem isn't having faith in itself. The problem is using faith as an excuse not to face the absurd. It's closing your eyes on purpose and saying the problem doesn't exist because you chose to believe it doesn't exist. Other people seek refuge in ideologies that promise ready-made meaning. It could be a political cause, it could be a social movement, it could be a philosophy that guarantees the world works in a certain way, and that if you follow certain rules, everything will fall into place. But this is also evasion. It's you delegating to something external the responsibility of giving meaning to your life. It's you saying you don't need to face the void because there's already a ready-made manual that tells you what to do and why. And when the ideology fails, when the promises aren't kept, you either sink into despair or seek another ideology to fill the void. But the void remains there. It always was. It always will be. So what's Camus' answer? It's simple and brutal at the same time. Face the absurd head-on. Don't run from it. Don't try to deny it. Don't invent comfortable illusions to soften the truth. Keep your consciousness clear. Look at the indifferent universe and acknowledge, yes, there's no ultimate meaning. Yes, life doesn't have a predetermined purpose. Yes, everything will end one day, and maybe it won't make any difference in the grand scheme of things. And after acknowledging this, after feeling the complete weight of this truth, do the only thing that really matters. Revolt. Revolt is the heart of Camus' philosophy. But it's not a violent or destructive revolt. It's a conscious and affirmative revolt. It's you saying to the universe, I know you don't care. I know there's no meaning waiting for me, but I'm going to live fully anyway. I'm going to create my own experience, my own values, my own intensity. I don't need your approval, universe. I don't need a divine plan. I don't need transcendental justifications. I'm going to live because I choose to live. And this conscious choice, this act of revolt, makes me more human than any ready-made answer ever would. It's the refusal to submit to the absurd. You don't resolve it because it's unresolvable, but you also don't let it destroy you or paralyze you. You challenge meaninglessness with your own conscious existence. I know it's hard to hear this. It seems too heavy. It seems like you're being thrown into an ocean without a life jacket. But the truth is the opposite. It's precisely this revolt that gives value to your life, because it affirms your human dignity. It says you're not a puppet obeying cosmic scripts. You're not a piece in a predefined game. You're a conscious being that, despite everything, chooses to say yes to life. And this choice is courageous. It's noble. It's a constant passion that transforms struggle into something affirmative. It's not passive resignation. It's active combat. It's you waking up every day and deciding you're going to live intensely, not because someone told you to, not because destiny demands it, but because you simply decided that's what you're going to do. And you know what happens when you stop searching for external meaning? You gain something most people never truly experience. Absolute freedom. Think about it. If there's no pre-traced destiny, if there are no divine rules written in the stars, if there's no universal purpose you need to fulfill, then what's left? You. Completely free. Free to choose your actions without needing to justify them with appeals to the transcendent. Free to create your own values based on your real experience, not on inherited dogmas. Free to make mistakes, to experiment, to change your mind. Free to be responsible only for yourself, without the excuse that you were just following a bigger plan. This freedom can be scary, because it means you're totally responsible. There's no one to blame. There's no cruel destiny to curse. There's no God to question. Just you and your choices. But at the same time, this is the purest freedom that exists. It's you being the complete owner of your path. With this freedom comes another profound change. You start to truly live in the present moment. Not that superficial mindfulness talk that became trendy. It's something deeper. When you stop searching for a greater meaning. When you abandon the illusion that life will only be worthwhile in the future. When you finally find your mission. Something opens up. Suddenly, the now becomes much more intense. You start paying attention to real sensations. The taste of coffee, the texture of the wind, the conversation with someone you love, the beauty of a sunset. Before, these things seemed secondary, irrelevant details while you ran after the great meaning. Now, they become the center, because there's nothing beyond them. There's no promise of something better coming. There's only what you're experiencing now. And this makes everything more precious. Camus advocates for a life rich in quantity of experiences. He talks about figures like the conqueror, the seducer, the artist. People who embrace the ephemeral, who live multiple lives in one, who don't get stuck waiting for the eternal, but dive headfirst into the transitory, and find in it a beauty and intensity impossible to achieve when you're always looking at the distant horizon. It's completely valid to feel this. We were taught our whole lives that what matters is the long term, the legacy, eternity. But Camus turns this upside down. He says, forget eternity. It doesn't exist for you, you have now. You have this sensation, this experience, this choice. Live it with all the intensity you can muster, because tomorrow will be another present moment, and then another, and another. And the sum of these moments lived fully is much more valuable than an empty promise of future meaning. To explain this, Camus uses one of the most powerful myths in philosophy, the myth of Sisyphus. You probably know the story. Sisyphus was a guy in Greek mythology who tricked the gods. As punishment, he was condemned to spend eternity rolling an enormous rock uphill. But when the rock reaches the top, it rolls back down, and Sisyphus has to go down and start all over again, forever. It's the perfect symbol of futility, an endless effort, with no achievable goal, no reward. Seems like the most hopeless thing in the world, right? An eternal nightmare, a punishment that would destroy anyone. But Camus looks at this myth and sees something else. He sees you. He sees the entire human condition. Because what is your life if not this? You wake up, work, solve problems, sleep, and the next day the rock is there again. Problems return, bills arrive, challenges repeat. You build something and eventually it crumbles. You love someone and eventually lose them. You fight for something and eventually it ends. There's no final victory. There's no moment when you push the rock and it stays there at the top forever and you can rest saying you fulfilled your mission. The rock always comes back. The effort always starts again. And one day you're gone and the rock is still there, indifferent. But here's the kicker. Camus ends the myth of Sisyphus with one of the most powerful phrases in philosophy. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Happy. A guy condemned to eternal and useless work, happy. How is this possible? It's possible because Sisyphus is conscious. He knows the rock will roll back. He knows his effort has no final purpose. He knows no God is going to show up and say he passed the test and can stop. And even knowing this, even with total lucidity about the futility, he goes down the mountain and starts again. Not because he's forced in the sense of being handcuffed and compelled, but because he chooses. He chooses to accept his fate. He chooses to make this absurd struggle his own struggle. And in this conscious choice, in this revolt of living despite everything, Sisyphus becomes superior to his punishment. He takes ownership of his own life. He transforms suffering into personal victory. The punishment doesn't defeat him because he doesn't need the punishment to make sense. He simply lives and finds joy in the struggle itself, not in a final result that will never come. Do you see what this means? It means happiness doesn't come from reaching a definitive goal. It doesn't come from finally discovering the meaning of life. It doesn't come from a future reward. Happiness comes from lucid consciousness and revolt against the absurd. It comes from you looking at your rock, at your mountain, and saying, okay, I know this isn't going anywhere in the grand scheme of things. I know there's no final prize. But this is my rock. This is my mountain. And I'm going to push this rock with everything I've got. Not because someone told me to, not because it will change the universe, but because I choose to do this. Because this struggle is mine. And in this act of appropriation, in this moment when you stop waiting for life to make sense and simply decide to live, something magical happens. The anxiety diminishes. The frustration loses strength. You find a strange peace, a contentment that doesn't depend on anything beyond your own consciousness. And here's the complete turnaround. You, like Sisyphus, can find contentment in the daily struggle, in the work that repeats, in the problems that return, in the difficulties that don't end. Because you're no longer judging your life by the impossible ruler of eternal meaning. You're no longer feeling like a failure because you still haven't discovered the great why. You're simply living, facing each day, making choices, feeling sensations, building experiences. And this is enough. It's not resignation. It's not giving up. It's active acceptance. It's you saying yes to life on your own terms, without needing guarantees, without needing promises, without needing future rewards. The present is sufficient. The struggle is sufficient. You are sufficient. When you accept the absurd this way, an incredible thing happens. Existential anxiety dramatically decreases. Think about it. Where does most of your anguish come from? It comes from the search. It comes from unanswered questions. Why am I here? What's my purpose? What happens after? Am I doing the right thing? These questions haunt you, keep you up at night, make you question every choice. And worst of all, there's never a definitive answer. So you go into crisis, you feel lost, you question everything. And the more you search, the emptier it gets. It's a cycle that can lead to complete despair or to a defensive cynicism where you pretend nothing matters. But when you stop searching, when you accept that these questions have no answers and that it's okay, the cycle breaks. Useless nostalgia ends. You stop looking backward or forward, trying to find the moment or answer that will finally explain everything. And in this void of impossible expectations, space emerges for true inner peace. I'm not saying this to make you anxious, but to wake you up. You live better when you stop judging your life as incomplete or lacking something essential just because it doesn't have transcendent meaning. Your life doesn't need cosmic justification to be valid. It's valid because you're living it now. And there's more. Without an externally imposed meaning, you can finally create your own values. Real values, based on your lived experience, not on dogmas someone taught you. You no longer need to accept that certain things are important because a religion said so, or because society expects it, or because an ancient book claims it. You can look at your own life, at your own experiences, and decide, this here has value to me. This here is worthwhile. This here I choose to prioritize. And your values become authentic. Your actions stop being external obligations and become genuine choices. You live with passion because you chose to live this way, not because you're following a script. And this gives you dignity, because you're affirming your humanity in the void. You're saying that even without guarantees, even without ready-made meaning, you choose values, you choose actions, you choose personal meanings. And these meanings are more powerful than any universal meaning could be, because they're genuinely yours. This is the intense and authentic life that Camus exalts. When you stop searching for transcendent meaning, you become more present. You appreciate simple beauties with more depth. A real conversation with a friend. The pleasure of creating something with your own hands. The sensation of your body moving. Genuine connection with another person. Before, these things were overshadowed by the great search. Now, they occupy the center. And you realize there was life happening all along. but you were too distracted looking for meaning to notice. Camus talks about passion for the quantity of life lived, like the actor who plays multiple roles, living several lives in one. Like the seducer who experiences multiple loves, seeking intensity, not eternity. Like the adventurer who embraces risks and uncertainties because intense life is worth more than safe and dull life. Absurd lucidity intensifies everything. Each moment becomes more valuable precisely because you know it doesn't point to anything beyond itself. It's not a step toward a glorious future. It simply is what it is. And for that very reason, it deserves to be lived with everything you've got. Camus presents fascinating examples of happy, absurd lives. There's Don Juan, the seducer who lives multiple, intense loves without promises of eternity. He's not looking for a soulmate who will complete him. He's living real passions, ephemeral, intense, and each one is complete in itself. There's the actor who multiplies roles, living dozens of different lives on stage. He doesn't seek a fixed and eternal identity. He embraces multiplicity, constant transformation. There's the conqueror who embraces risks, who faces enormous challenges knowing that in the end, everything will end anyway. But who finds joy precisely in the struggle. None of them are waiting for eternal reward. None of them are accumulating credits for the afterlife. They're revolting against the absurd by maximizing the present, living now, feeling now, choosing now, and finding joy in the diversity of experiences, not in one single definitive answer. These archetypes show that absurd happiness is not only possible, but vibrant, passionate, alive. Much more alive than a gray existence waiting for meaning to show up someday. But it's important to make a crucial distinction here. Some people confuse Camus's absurdism with nihilism, and they're completely different things. Nihilism looks at the lack of meaning and falls into despair. Says that if nothing has ultimate meaning, then nothing matters. So whatever. So why do anything? Nihilism leads to inaction, to apathy, to giving up. It's a philosophy of emptiness, of negation, of nothing. Camus completely rejects this. Absurdism isn't passive, it's active, it's revolt. It's you saying yes to life despite the universe's no. Stopping the search for meaning isn't giving up. It's precisely the opposite. It's starting to truly live. It's trading the impossible search for real experience. It's trading eternal expectation for the intense present. It's trading comfortable illusion for liberating lucidity. The nihilist looks at the abyss and jumps. The absurdist looks at the abyss, recognizes it's there, and still chooses to dance on its edge. With consciousness, with revolt, with passion. So, how does this work in practice? How do you apply this in your day-to-day? Because one thing is beautiful philosophy on paper, another thing is living this for real. First, you look at your repetitive routines with new eyes. The work that repeats every day, like Sisyphus's rock. Relationships that require constant effort. Challenges that always come back. Instead of feeling frustrated because this isn't leading you anywhere transcendent, you choose consciousness. You choose to be present in these moments. You choose to find passion in them, not because they're going to save you, but because they're your life happening now. You revolt against futility by choosing to live intensely despite it. You appreciate the effort itself, not a final result that may never come. Cultivate daily lucidity. This means asking yourself regularly, am I living fully now, or am I postponing my life waiting for it to make sense tomorrow? Am I creating my own values, or am I following values I don't even know where they came from? Am I choosing my actions, or am I on autopilot? Am I appreciating the present moment, or am I always looking at the horizon? This isn't a practice of self-flagellation. It's a practice of awakening. It's you bringing consciousness to your own existence. And when you realize you're stuck in the search, you can choose to stop. You can choose to return to the present. You can choose revolt. Another practical thing, stop waiting for salvation. Whether from career, from the perfect relationship, from spiritual discovery, from the moment when everything will finally make sense, there won't be salvation. There's no final redemption moment where everything fits together and you can relax saying you found it. But this isn't discouraging. It's liberating, because it means you can stop running. You can stop postponing. You can start living now, not when you finally reach that impossible goal. Each day becomes complete in itself, not a step towards something bigger. And this changes everything. You work not to reach a glorious future, but because you choose to work now. You love not because the person will complete you, but because you choose to love now. You create not because you'll leave an eternal legacy, but because you choose to create now. And in these conscious choices, in this daily revolt, you build a life that doesn't need external justification to be valid. So why is stopping the search for meaning the best thing you can do? Because this search imprisons you. It keeps you in an eternal cycle of frustration, anxiety, and disappointment. It makes you ignore the present in the name of a promised future that never arrives. It makes you judge your life as incomplete, as lacking something essential. And you spend years, decades, maybe your entire life, chasing an answer the universe isn't going to give you. Because the universe doesn't have those answers. It simply exists, indifferent. But when you stop searching, when you accept the absurd and revolt against it, everything changes. You gain absolute freedom to create your own values, make your own choices, live your own life without needing cosmic approval. You gain the ability to live the present with total intensity, appreciating each moment for what it is, not for what it promises. You free yourself from existential anxiety, from useless nostalgia, from the weight of impossible expectations. And you discover that happiness wasn't waiting at the end of the search. It was available all along, here, now, in conscious struggle. As Camus teaches in the myth of Sisyphus, life is lived better when it has no externally imposed meaning. When you stop waiting for someone or something to tell you why you exist, and simply decide to exist in the most intense way possible. When you look at your rock, at your mountain, and say, okay, this is my struggle, and I'm going to live it fully. Not because it will take me somewhere eternal, but because I choose this now. And in this choice, in this conscious revolt, you find something more powerful than any ready-made meaning could offer. You find dignity. You find freedom. You find passion. You find happiness in the struggle itself. Imagine yourself as happy Sisyphus, going down the mountain with total consciousness that the rock is down there waiting, knowing you'll push it again, knowing this will repeat indefinitely, and even so smiling. Not a smile of bitter resignation, a smile of affirmative revolt, a smile of someone who took ownership of their own life, who doesn't need external meaning because they created their own values, who doesn't need future reward because they live the present with everything, who transformed the absurd from enemy into territory of absolute freedom. This is the greatest human victory against the absurd. Not denying it, not running from it, but looking at it head-on, acknowledging it completely, and still choosing to live with passion. This is what frees you. This is what makes you truly human. This is what transforms emptiness into space for creation. And this, in the end, is the best thing you can do for yourself. If this video made you think differently about your own life, if it showed you that the search for meaning might be exactly what's preventing you from living, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel for more reflections that go against everything they taught you. And tell me in the comments, can you imagine yourself as happy Sisyphus, pushing your rock every day with a smile on your face? Or are you still stuck in the search for that meaning that never arrives?